You're watching What She Said on YouTube.
And welcome back. I'm Christine Bentley in studio with Kate Wheeler, and we are joined today by a beautiful young woman with a story that will both terrify and inspire you. Corinne Penstone, welcome to our show.
Thank you.
So looking at you today, Corinne, nobody would ever in a million years guess that you were this close to, in your words, being dead. So let's start at the beginning. A young girl with a great family, a loving family. What happened?
Well, there's a lot of factors that contributed to the darkness that I lived. I think a lot of it had to do with bullying, not being confident enough in myself. I wanted so much to be liked by everyone that I ended up sacrificing a lot of my own values. It was a long road.
So when did this start? When did the downfall sort of start?
I would say, grade 6, grade 7, grade 8, I started to believe that, popularity was the most important thing, being liked by everyone. I was very emotional. I was a child who grew up very imaginative and creative, and I lost touch with a lot of that. Growing up, bullying was a huge part of my life that, I started to really believe in the things that they were saying and telling me. And I went from loving my life and loving everything about it to saying, well, maybe I am a loser or, ugly and all these terrible things that people would tell me.
Well, you said that while you were falling down the black hole, you were consciously saying to yourself, but I have this loving family. They've done everything right. They support me. But you just couldn't help yourself. Tell people how far down you fell.
I fell down very far. The bullying was really intense. I went through an incredible depression. In that, though, I think I wanted so much to find adventure, to be, on my own. And I grew up in a small town, and I wasn't exposed to a lot. And, going down into the city of Toronto when I was just a teenager, it was like, wow, like this whole world of stuff to see. And, and then, going into that scene with no confidence and no respect for myself after so long of believing that I was worthless.
So what happened? Are you talking self-harm, drugs, drinking? What was going on?
Lots. All of the above.
All of the above.
I found, the people at my school didn't like me, so I ended up finding a darker kind of scene in the city, drugs, dangerous people, a lot of self-harm, disconnection. The drugs were just like this fuel that I had because I couldn't wake up and live a day sober. I had to go into that scene and really got taken over by the substances. And
what kind of substances?
Everything I could get my hands on. Cocaine was a huge substance in my life. I would say that would be the main slipper.
So what were your parents doing? They must have been terrified for you.
Absolutely. I went into this rebellious stage where I just didn't care anymore. They tried everything to help me. I went in group homes. I was in institutions. I was in therapy. And I always just felt like it was everyone else telling me what they thought I should do to feel better, but nobody really, understood what I was going through.
So when did the really destructive behavior begin? What age?
Between the ages of 14 to onward after that.
And how long did it last?
It lasted a long time. It wasn't until I was probably 18 that life started to sort of turn around for me. It was a long road of just darkness and self-destruction.
But at some point, you thought, I am going to die.
Mm-hmm.
What was that day? What was that moment? What happened where suddenly it hit you?
I was living in a group home. I had run away for the millionth time. I was very high and I felt like I was lost. I didn't have any connection to my family anymore. You know, I knew they were there trying to support me, but I felt very disconnected from everything that I thought was real growing up. And I remember I was hanging off the side of a bridge, and I was going to jump, and I just didn't want to live anymore. You know, I just felt really lost. And
How did you get off the bridge?
there was many police officers who, it was actually really crazy because it's so far away that I'm, you know, remembering it, but the one thing that I do remember is I was just about to let go when the police officer ended up leaping and grabbing my arm. And I remember thinking there was no possible way that he was close enough to save me, like to have been on that bridge, and I just knew I was going to die. And then from behind, my arm was grabbed, and I was saved, and I did not think that he was close enough.
What would you say to him now if you could talk to him?
Thank you.
It must have been. And what happened when they pulled you off the bridge? Did they take you for help, or did
Yeah.
they take you to jail?
Yeah, no, at that point I was taken for help. I was, you know, the jail and that stuff came later, but I remember thinking that I didn't want to do this anymore. I didn't want to be feeling this way. I didn't want to be gripped by this depressing feeling. I think everyone really just wants to be happy, and I didn't know how to be happy after being so sad for so long. I didn't think it was possible.
But you just said that even after you were saved, this was before more, quote, bad behavior.
Yeah, I think because I was so deep into this negative scene, the only people that I knew around my age and the friends, so-called friends that I had, were very dangerous and bad people. So I felt very tangled into that situation. So even though I felt like saved, and I can remember it now, I was still surrounded by so many negative forces that...
So Corinne, how did you come to be at Portage? Because it doesn't sound like it was a willing gesture on your part.
I think it was a little bit of both. I mean, I was arrested for, you know, something that happened a little while after that, and I was faced with choosing many years in prison or coming to this rehabilitation facility. And, you know, there was part of me that didn't want to do either, and that I would have rather just hung myself and just gotten over it. But, you know, after a long talk with my dad and my mom and, you know, the people who were trying to help me, I decided to go to Portage.
So, but you were pretty rebellious when you first got there.
Yes. You know, I kicked and screamed my way through the first phases of the program. I was very used to being in treatment and just rebelling so badly that I would either get kicked out or people would just say, I can't handle, you know, I don't want to deal with this girl, and I would always get kicked out of places that I was in. And the unique thing about Portage is that no matter how hard I kicked and screamed, they held on and they were fighting for me just as hard as I was. There were people there who had been through what I was going through and that could talk to me and tell me their story and help me to move through my own stuff.
So you described yourself at one point as a lost kid that could never be helped. And were you hanging out with other lost kids that felt the same way?
Absolutely, and I think that there's this ego that we have when we're that lost, and now looking back I can say, yes, I was a lost kid that could never be helped. And like I could see the way I was feeling that way, but I really liked portraying myself as like really bad and like, you know, I could do anything I wanted and like I didn't care. And, you know, I think that was just a huge front for this like desire to feel good and, you know, to fit into some scene that I could find that would accept me for who I really was.
You're watching What She Said on YouTube.
Welcome back. I'm Christine Bentley in studio with Kate Wheeler, and with us today, Corinne Penstone, and Jennifer Blunt, who is a director at Portage, Ontario, a treatment facility that basically saved Corinne's life. And thankfully so, because you're in a great place right now. This was 12 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And what's going on with you now?
Well, I'm actually happier than I've ever been in my whole life. I'm so happy that Portage gave me all these incredible tools because I've met the love of my life, and we have 2 beautiful baby boys that are twin 2-year-olds, and they're a handful at times, but I know I'm never going to go down that road that I was in. I'm in an incredible career that I absolutely love. I'm a positive person and doing positive things in life, so yeah.
So Jennifer, you haven't had a chance to say much, but this is a story that you hear quite often because Portage has quite a success rate. Why don't you tell us about that?
Yes, Corinne is a true testament to the program, as are so many of our young people, and I really would rather listen to them speak. We have, Portage is a program that has been in existence for 40 years, and it has evolved from a single program in Provo, Quebec, into a network of 13 programs across Canada, which includes 5 programs that are dedicated specifically to young people. We do have an incredible rate of success, and we, depending on what metric you look at, we're running 75 to 85% in terms of seeing people turn their lives around and becoming very, very positive forces in our community.
So how long it typically is a treatment for someone who, say, came to you in the place that Corinne was?
Generally 6 months would be the average length, but it's really based on individual need, and so it can range from 4 months, it can extend beyond 6 months to 7 or 8 months in some cases. Sometimes longer with our specialized programs like the Mother and Child program, where we are treating both the mother and her children in a residential facility. That could go as long as a year. We also have a program for people with significant mental health challenges as well, schizophrenia, and they are typically in treatment longer, again a year. Would be an average for a program like that.
Well, you've trained professionals from many, many other countries. What makes your program different?
Well, I think Portage views addiction and substance abuse as as a symptom of something else that has gone awry in a person's life, and the challenges that the individual are dealing with are as unique as the individuals themselves. And for that reason, the Portage program has to be a holistic program. We're looking at physical and mental health. We're looking at core life skills and competencies, communication skills, self-awareness, self-esteem. And we also are dealing with the person's education or career aspirations, and all of our youth facilities have on-site schools, or the Portage Academy, where young people are getting help getting their education back on track, and they're earning school credits. For the first time, for many kids, it's the first time they're actually succeeding with their education. We also, recreation is a key ingredient. We have to provide the young people with new passions, new things that they will use or that will occupy their spare time when they leave the residential program. But if to pinpoint one single factor that would underlie the success of the Portage program, I really feel it's the community itself and the peer-to-peer influence and support that people find and receive in the program. By way of example, just about all of the clients who come to Portage, like Corinne, have lost all hope there is no belief that they can change their lives, and they're caught in such a downward spiral that they don't believe in themselves. They don't believe that they can change. And I've spoken to hundreds of clients like Portage, like Corinne, who have changed and turned their lives around. And the ubiquitous thing, and we heard it earlier from Corinne, is that staff and the residents in the community do not give up on them. And for the first time in their lives, it's the community that carries them and that provides the belief and the strength and the hope, and provides that beacon of light until they develop it themselves and they find that hope internally.
Okay, so you're not for profit. So who pays?
It varies province to province, but 80% of the program is typically covered through the government. In every province we have campaign initiatives and fundraising activities, and a large contingent of volunteers involved who help raise money. And that money goes to enhance the programming. It goes to expand and add to the number of youth and clients that we can treat in the year.
One thing I just wanted to add to connect to that is, how do you keep people there? Because if you're over 16, you have the right to refuse to stay in a facility. Do you have a lot of people running away?
Oh, you know what? I think it really is, again, the community and how they buoy around it. I'll never forget a chat I had with a young girl by the name of Rachel, and she had just come back. She had run away from Portage in Elora, and in her time away, in the few days where she was what we call AWOL or absent from the program, she had engaged in some very dangerous activities and behaviors. And when she got back to the program, and she ended up, like Corinne, she had been kicking and screaming her way through. And she cites that incident as being the turning point for her, when her fellow residents bandied around and they went to extreme measures to confiscate and hide away every pair of running shoes, every pair of boots, every winter jacket that would have facilitated her running away again. And she realized at that point that her peers believed in her, and they cared enough to make sure she couldn't hurt herself again, and that she had to stay to work on herself.
So what message, adding to what Jennifer's just said, Corinne, would you have for anyone out there who was in the place that you were in?
I guess that there are people out there who really do care. And as alone as you feel, in that darkness, the choice really is yours to choose to live a better life, a more sustainable life. And, just because we're becoming, on this path of wellness, it doesn't mean that it's going to be boring. That was my biggest fear, was like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to have any more adventures and intense fun. But, I've found more sustainable adventures and more ones that are truthful and good, and ones that, I would say don't give up hope. And I would say that, life is full of magic and incredible possibilities. And for the grand scheme of things, our life is pretty short on this planet. And if we want to have one that we really want to enjoy, then to go out and take that risk and to find someone who can help, and call Portage or call someone that that will help to guide you back into a more sustainable practicing life where you can find that magic again.
So Jennifer, what does it take to get admitted? I mean, if you have a child, or somebody, or you're talking to somebody who's going through something, how does one get admitted? Because you don't have enough spaces probably for all the young people who might need your services.
No, there are not enough spaces, but we do our best to get to care for as many people as possible. I think the admissions protocol varies in each program across the country, but each of those programs have admissions teams who can help a family and or a client work through the assessments that should be done to determine that residential treatment is merited, and to facilitate the person getting the help they need, whether it's at Portage or through some other type of programs.
So you still have to do some fundraising, as Kate mentioned before. So how do you fundraise?
Well, we, as you know, Christine, we have a big event in Ontario, and again, every province does their own fundraising, and the money raised in each community stays in the community to support clients from that community. We have our big fundraiser of the year tomorrow, and it is a dinner and auction. We also rely on a lot of grant writing and just outright donations from generous individuals, corporations, and foundations who step up to really help us enhance the programming that we're able to deliver.
You're watching What She Said on YouTube.
Corinne, I want to ask you, now that you're a mom, I know the feeling because I'm a mom too, but that terrify, how am I going to protect these two little creatures, right? They're now my responsibility. What are you going to do? Are you going to tell them when they're old enough that you went through this? Do you think that will help empower them? How are you going to handle it?
Well, we're going to move to the jungle. And, no. I think, I don't feel like getting into intense details is going to be necessary, but I have scars all over my body that they're going to one day say, oh, Mommy, did you get attacked by a tiger? And I won't be able to say yes forever. They're going to grow up and learn that something happened, and I think that being really honest about the lessons that I've learned in my life, not necessarily the story and the details, but the things that are really important to me, and I think also not sheltering my children. And I think, I look at the way my parents raised me, and they were amazing, and they did the best that they knew how to do in that time of life, and I think taking them into the world and showing them the good and the bad, and knowing that they'll always have me and Stephen to love them forever, no matter what, and that will always be a safe place.
But you knew that with your parents.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't help.
No, but I don't know. I guess I just do the best that you can do.
All parents do.
Well, and perhaps your parents' generation, we're not as familiar with bullying and the effects that we're now seeing, the peer pressure, the not belonging, the not fitting in, how devastating that can be. Mm-hmm. But you are aware of it.
I'm very, yes. Because it's something that you think about, you're like, oh, it can't, people say sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me. And for some, that's true. Some people are not fazed. And I work with youth now, and I see the strength and the power that girls have, coming together, and anti-bullying campaigns, and all of these things that were never happened when I was a youth. It was just sort of nobody talked about it. And
were you bullied because you were overweight? Or?
I thought I was so fat growing up, and I look at pictures, and I was not overweight. But I was told, by the, girls and people that I was around, that I was worthless and nothing, and, I just kept getting bullied, and I just believed it. And if that was today, I would have been like, I just had twins, but I would have been more compassionate and understanding.
And now you teach yoga. Is that what you
I do? Yes, I teach yoga. I'm a musician. I'm a writer. A lot of things.
You're busy.
Yes, and Mom, it's incredible. I just feel like I've learned so much from my life. And now when I work with youth, and I do a lot of girls' yoga classes and stuff, I'm just so blown away by their their knowledge and their commitment to their
Well, if you want to know
community.
anything about twins, mother of twin
Yes.
boys, right over there.
Yes, absolutely. So this is indeed a wonderfully happy ending.
Mhm.
You know, it's could have turned out much worse, but thanks to Portage, a happy ending. For anyone who'd like to find out more, Jen, or who'd like to donate anywhere, anybody in this country, where can they go?
Well, I think the best source of information and to provide support to the Portage program in your community, you can visit our website at www.portage.ca. And if you're struggling and you don't have access to the web, or you can also call our central number, or our office in Toronto is 416-531-1333, and we'll direct you to the appropriate center.
Well, thank you, Corinne and Jennifer, for joining us today and sharing this fabulous story.
Click the channel subscribe button for full-length interviews and more from What She Said here on YouTube.